Vaush, I understand you're an anarchist. In good faith, I want to ask, how would your ideal society function without a set of state-run democratic institutions? Asking me to talk about anarchism is like asking a person who's subsisting off of, like, dumpster diving what their favorite, like, 3-star Michelin restaurant would be to visit. It feels a little bit, aspirational, I think. I don't really know. I mean, like, I think of it more as, like, a lens of analysis by which to approach politics than it is like an end state. I think that if there's any like main thing, if there's any like big, I guess, shift there's been in my thinking, it's been that it's not only utopianism that's the issue. I actually think any kind of goal-oriented political activism is an issue. Like, you can only ever advocate for the next step in a staircase. You know what I mean? The moment you take your eyes off the next step and you start looking at the top of the landing or whatever, you're fucking gone, dude. You're lost. Which seems weird because you would want to have like these long-term goals in mind. And I think you can kind of like position yourself to be well adjusted for the next step. Like you can in the abstract, you can be like, I care about the next step, but, you know, past that, right? Like we need to be ready if there's another one. But I feel like I've seen so many people get lost in the weeds on like, well, what do you want? And then you end up getting this weird, like fascists are so good at unifying because they have no real beliefs, right? They have no real like end state they want society to be in. Like even people whose one real belief seems to be white supremacy love it when Kanye West becomes the world's biggest Hitler fan. They love it. All of a sudden, all of the world's most racist white guys will be like, yeah, we fucking love Kanye. Let's go. And they'll be like posting memes about him. They'll be like the one good black guy or whatever, you know. They love his shit. They don't believe anything, so they have a really easy time like rallying together, you know? They're like tribesmen. They just need to be led by like a strong leader. But the left gets so like insular and so locked into these weird, all these conversations people on the left have about like, you know, what like hyper-specific theoretical branch of socialism should we pursue in the future after all these other problems that are currently a problem aren't a problem? Like, what do we do then? And they argue about it, you know? I think you have to be really pragmatic to have any chance. And I think if you look back in history, like, I think this has always been the case, right? That's not a compromise on how things used to be. That is how things always were. It's this modern navel-gazing, I think, that this stuff used to be confined to academia, right? Like, it used to be, if you knew a bunch of working-class socialists, they were fucking dumb. You'd be like, what do we want? And they'd be like, food! And you'd be like, when do we want it? And they'd be like, we hungry! And then they would go like burn down a factory. It was very simple, you know. But nowadays everyone's a fucking academic. And you have people with like 92 IQ talking about how, you know, white supremacy marginalizes black bodies. And then when somebody says, hey, just call them black people, they're like flipping through the pages of their textbook going, well, actually, it's racist to call them people because calling them bodies emphasizes the placement of manual labor on their personhood. Like, we need to simplify, okay? We need to bring it back. Idiocracy is looking more real every day. No, I'm saying the opposite. The average person nowadays the average leftist nowadays is way more engrossed in like the theoretical discussions than they used to be, and it's, you know, the phrase a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. What that, people misinterpret that phrase. What people think that means is if you know a little bit, you become like a powerful force. What it actually means, if you know a little bit about a subject, you're dangerous because you have the fucking Dunning-Kruger effect going on. Like, you think you know more than you do. It's the whole dynamic now. Okay, I guess I've been getting 3-year-old Vaush debates recommended to me where he was adamantly an anarchist. Well, for one, you can see how old a video is in the video pretty easily. It's right next to the view count. But also, I didn't say I wasn't an anarchist. What I said is that, like, you have to let anarchism inform the way you think about politics, not think of it as like, this is the end state I want to arrive at. People make the mistake of going like, well, what does anarchism look like? But that's not the right question, right? The right question isn't what does anarchism look like? Buddy, you're not seeing it. What does it look like? I don't know. What does the face of God look like? I can't tell you what God looks like. I can tell you how to reach heaven, okay? And it begins with planting trees. you can't think of it like, well, this is the, they say begin with the end in mind, but then you get stuck thinking about the end. You have to think about the processes, about being, critical of power, about being understanding of how these incentive structures like incentivize or disincentivize certain, and yeah, there will never be an end, There will never be an end. And why should there be? Guy who thinks that in the year like 2067 will achieve the final political system, and then all of humanity will stay that way forever. I've read Marx. Okay, but there are inherent contradictions in that, right? Because you have to at the same time push for increased government oversight in terms of social care, but at the same time have an outcome in mind where the state no longer exists. No, you're overthinking it. Right now, there is no alternative to a nation state. Okay? Like trying to push for a system or prepare for a system in which there is no nation state, you might as well be like pre-laying your power grid in anticipation of like free renewable energy, Like, oh, don't worry, we can lay this out with as much inefficiency along the wire as we want, because energy will be free at some point in the future. You're so far away from that. Also, nation states gobble up everything that isn't a nation state. That's why every spot on Earth is a nation state, or in the case of Antarctica, is useless and therefore has not been subsumed by nation state status. What you need to do, you need to let the dynamic inform. You have to let the ideology inform how you approach politics, Isn't a state that leads into a stateless society just Marxism-Leninism? No, Marxism-Leninism is fake. It's not real. It was invented by fascists to distract you. Why are we getting chat debated? It's going to be a long stream today. Might as well engage. I don't know, I feel like without a set of coherent end goals you want to see and push for, you just kind of end up band-aiding solutions. Bull Melons, you're misunderstanding. There is no end goal. There are things you want to maximize and things you want to minimize, okay? You want to maximize happiness, you want to minimize, I don't know, AIDS, whatever you care about, okay? But there is no end goal. There are steps that you take, right? You want to go higher up. It's like a dimensional staircase, You're moving in a bunch of different directions, you're moving between dimensions, but at the end of the day, you got to reach the end of the staircase. But there is no end goal, right? Because a goal is the end of the journey, and there is no end to the journey. You can plan, like, with the future in mind, but there's a big difference between, like, I'll put it this way, okay? And I'm going to finish it with the analogy, right? You can take one step up, but how does it feel when you reach the end of a staircase, but you think there's one more step? So you do, like, the big step up, and then you go down onto the same level that your other foot's at. Doesn't that shit suck? Whether or not you've reached the end of the staircase, there's a difference between being well prepared for the next step and not being well prepared for the next step. You just have to be ready for the next step, Maybe be ready for the next 10 steps, Do your leg workouts beforehand. Do your stretches. Make sure you're ready to climb 100 flights of stairs, or 1,000 flights of stairs. Even if you don't see where the staircase goes. And you never will. You'll be dead long before anything you want to happen actually happens. We all will, okay? That's just how it is. Put your dick in your pants, Benjamin. I have no idea what that means, but okay. It means stop freaking out. And also, if you have a link to share, share a link.